guys, it's your girl, Father Longlegs, Teresa Lee. Nobody calls me that, but I like to make that a thing. You're listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. This is a podcast where comedians confess something they want to get off their chest. Today we have a very exciting comedian. We met in New York, but she's out in LA, and she's going to be on James Corden soon, so look out for that. She's got a podcast called Shooters Gotta Shoot. Erica Spera, what's up?
Hello. Woo, woo, woo. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here.
I looked up your Twitter because I've been trying to read funny tweets from my guests because I feel like sometimes the conversations get so heavy and then I'm like, everybody's so funny on this. Okay, so I'm going to read a tweet from yours. Twitter. My friends and I have to work out in the morning or else I'm too tired years old. Which I felt that, man.
It's so sadly true. I remember hearing adults say that when I was in my early 20s and being like, just go after work. Like, I don't understand what the big deal is. And then after a few years of working, I was like, oh yeah, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. Like, that's it.
It's funny because right before this, we were talking about how you don't have to work or you have your full-time comedy. But do you still feel like you have to get up and motivate yourself for that? Oh
yeah. Well, because it's very easy to sleep in.
Sure.
So essentially, if I don't have anywhere to be in the morning, it's very easy to be like, oh, wake up at 10, which for comedians, if you're out till 2 every night, is a reasonable time to wake up. But all of a sudden, you're like doing things and starting to work that I'll use work that I have to do that it's like independent work to not work out. So it's like, I have to be like, you're getting up and doing it because if you don't, you just won't do it later.
Were you an athlete in high school? Because you have a lot of sports metaphors. Yeah.
Like my podcast is about dating, but it's Shooters Gotta Shoot is a total sports term. I was always in a sport. Basketball was my main one. I played that in college, but like every fall, winter, spring, I even changed a bunch. Like I started with
different sports.
I started with tennis and then I switched to swimming.
You were a sampler. You were like, I need to do everything. I like this.
Yeah, it was also just like, I don't know, each one I would hit the point and I was like, I don't really like this. Or I was mainly doing it because I had friends on the team. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go do this sport now. So yeah, it's kind of, it's weird. I feel like I got burnt out though on the workouts. Yeah. I feel like the people I know super into working out as adults were not athletes in high school.
Oh, interesting. I've never thought about that. Yeah, because the idea of gains,
Oh, God, yeah.
But it's like a thing because I think as an adult, I do think there's something very empowering. My sister's like this and I do joke about it. And I've never been able to truly get into it, the motivation. But if you do hit that stride, I get it. Like you feel really in control that you're working on something and you see results. But I think if you had that as a kid in your peak physical, time, I imagine as an adult, it can't compare, right? Like the amount of results you would see as a high school teenager in sports as opposed to being a 30-year-old.
Well, even college.
Probably just doesn't feel as good.
Yeah, there's something to being like, I know probably there's trainers that would disagree with me, but I'm like, you're never going to be in as good of a shape as you were when you were playing 3 college basketball games a week. Like, you just won't. Whatever weight and size you were back in that day, it was like, you were practicing for 3 hours a day minimum. And then weights, and then this, and that, like, so just in terms of like literally accepting your body, it's one thing. But then the other part is like, I was used to my workouts being running around playing games, doing drills. So people I see now that really get into working out, I almost feel like are more like introverted in a way, or they've never worked out in a team setting. So for me, it's kind of hard to be like, I'm going to the gym solo and there's no one like pushing you and motivating you to do certain things. I'll go with the whole plan. Like I'm going to do like 30 push-ups and 20 this and blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the gym and you're like, I'm just going to do like 3 of those things and go like all of a sudden my plan just minimizes because there's no one holding you accountable. So I know it's like I should do like classes because that's like there's a time you have to show up, you paid for it, and then also
but also you don't have to. That's the thing. Whenever anytime the gym comes up, I do it too, but people will be like, I should go to the gym more. It's like, you don't have to.
Yeah, you really don't.
Unless you're trying to train for something.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it's
if you
good
work
to
out
feel
well,
healthy, but like whatever, do you.
Or if you do really good workouts, intense good workouts, you don't have to go every day.
Yeah, but I go a lot less than that. So
Yeah, I've had very lazy streaks. People, it's so funny that just because being tall and like not 500 pounds, people just assume you're super in shape. Yeah. Like even right now where I'm like, no, I'm actually in some of the worst shape of my life.
Well, it is a full disclaimer. This is a joke I've done on stage, but literally my twin sister loves to work out and we don't look that different.
Funny.
So
Live it up.
I mean, that's the proof is in the pudding there. You really can't do that much. I mean, our bodies are also different. Some people's bodies can do more.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't want to speak for everyone.
I'm like, live it up, because I've never had the body that I could eat whatever I wanted. And to see people that are like naturally very thin also be doing like dietary restrictions like I have to do sometimes is kind of infuriating, because I'm like, listen, you can add healthy stuff, but you can have a little dairy. I can't. You know what I mean? Like shit like that, where you're like, no, enjoy your little dairy right now. You know what I mean? Like if it's not affecting your body or how you feel, but
talking about feeling good, we like to start with a good confession, just to like have a positive note. Is there something good you'd like to confess?
Well, you announced it up top, but I guess my good confession is reveal is that I will be doing a late night set on James Corden. I don't have my official date, but it's there, which is one of those things in comedy. As much as people go, does it really change your career? It's like, kind of not, but kind of yes.
I hate when people do that, because it's always people who haven't, or it's always people who've already done it, and like it's not because of that things didn't go well, but then they'll be like, it doesn't matter anyways. I'm like, were you saying that when you got it? No, you're just saying that now because you want something else.
Yeah, or I was gonna say it's even more so the people that never did one. Like, and if, they might have a following through something else, and it's like, there's plenty of ways to get things in the world.
Generally speaking, I think the best reaction for good news is just to be positive. It is really hard in comedy, because I get that everyone's sort of competing, but like, they didn't take your spot. So
no,
it's like, just be happy for someone. Is it that hard? I don't know. It's so crazy.
How many tall Italian comics you got out there in the world? There's really none. Let me have this.
Yeah.
It's very hard to stay positive in the biz. So it's like, even the thing I have right now that's coming up is like, it's a win. You need wins every once in a while. Whether you think it's huge, whether you think it's small, it's still like, it's nice. It's nice to be like, I got something, because we hear no so much. So I've been that person too, of the like, why wasn't it me? It's natural. Jealousy is a very hard emotion to, we try to act like it doesn't exist, and that's not being jealous. And it's like, no, all of us are jealous. It's almost like if you point out, like, you're just being jealous right now. It's the same with like anger is like a secondary emotion. Yeah. Right? Isn't that like the big difference?
Yeah, there's another thing below it. Or like it's like masking some other true feeling.
Right. So it's like you originally were disappointed, it wasn't you, or you were sad, it wasn't you. And then the secondary reaction is the anger or jealousy.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, because I'm by no means perfect. I get jealous all the time, but I try to be like, I do actually get really excited for people to tell me good news, but I think it's because I just like to feel good, so I like to feed off of that. Yeah. But of course, when I'm alone, I'll obviously spiral on my own at times and be like, well, overall, why is this not happening? But I think the secondary thing is a good way to put it, because if you're having an emotion at someone versus what is it? Oh, so like anger, you're like mad at someone, versus sad, you're sad for yourself. So I feel like if you ever find yourself like projecting literally emotions onto someone else, like, you're making me feel this way, then you gotta like turn around and be like, no, why do I feel this way? I'm not trying to put it on you.
That was actually my whole college degree. I tell people communications, but it was called Performing and Communication Arts, and it was communication, no S, which is not like media and blah blah blah. It literally was like studying the communication of, there was one class called, I'm gonna screw this up, there was intrapersonal, which is talking to yourself, right? And then interpersonal is talking to other people. So like there was one class just of how we talk to ourselves, one class of how we talk to other people. There was one that was like gender, communication, whatever. But the big thing with that was, people don't make you happy, people don't make you this, and it, just to wrap your head around that is so like, wait, what? And it's so interesting. But it's more, it's like how you're interpreting what people are doing is then making you react that way.
Yeah. Wait, were you trying to go into psychology or?
No, it was just, I remember I took an intro to communication class, and I loved this teacher. It was one of the only times I loved a class, and so much stuff in that really blew my mind. But actually, I almost feel like it kind of shaped me into going to comedy a little bit, because it made me analyze how people communicate a little more. But it was so interesting with our teacher. We would give examples that were like technology based, of like writing K with a period. You're actually like pissed. And she was like, what?
She had no idea. She was like, this isn't what I researched.
Like, she was like, are you for real? She's like, but I come from, you should use punctuation. I'm like, well, it's not an email, it's a text.
Yeah, whoa. That's so interesting, because just imagining professors who've spent their whole life studying one language, and the language changed so much, and we all change with it. Like, I think we pick up faster on changes, but But like if you're in school and academia, like you might be like beholden to your textbook, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong now.
But that's why it's also exciting. It's the same way of like video editing software keeps changing. Like when I was in college, Final Cut, went from Final Cut 7 to 10 or something, and my teacher was kind of pissed because he liked
iMovie basically.
Yeah, he was like, they made it, they dumbed it down, all this stuff. Like he was so mad, but it was something that's like, I think you're partly mad because you have to relearn it.
Yeah, that's
so you're not an expert
anymore. They did
anymore.
kind of dumb it down, but
right.
That's okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, we dumb down everything. Why wouldn't we? But yeah, my senior thesis was about, I called it VDA instead of PDA. So it was virtual displays of affection.
Whoa.
And I basically talked about how I don't really see a lot of PDA from people, but you constantly see online people uploading pictures of affection. So it's like, it's no longer someone sent you flowers. It's you uploaded the photo of you got flowers. Is like a way of you showing affection to your partner and being appreciative.
Where do you stand on that? Like, is it?
It's so
like,
funny
because tacky to post. Like, do you post people if you're in a relationship?
What's funny is I
recently learned that as a way to talk about it.
Really?
Like, are you posting like when you post a relationship?
Yes, it used to be like, are you Facebook official? Right?
But that's
like your status on Facebook would change too.
Yeah, but
in
now
a
it's if
relationship.
you're on the feed, right?
Yeah. Well, I find it mad sketchy if you're a dude, because I've had this happen before of dating dudes that actually had girlfriends. Mm-hmm. There's not one lick of your lady anywhere.
Oh,
She's
yeah, I've been that girl.
Oof.
And then when I asked about it, he said he didn't use it much. But then I got
bullshit.
I got posted in a slideshow in the last pic. And then he deleted it and messaged me so that I wouldn't think he did on purpose. He's like, oh, I had to delete it because I did a typo. And then
no, that's bullshit. Oh, you can edit.
Like, but it was enough for me to be like, well, now if I call you out, I sound insane for being like, post me, bitch.
You don't sound insane.
But I was like, I see what you're doing.
No.
And you don't get credit for posting me for 2 hours.
That guy sucks.
In the last slideshow.
No. Okay. So it's like we all act like Instagram doesn't matter, right?
Right.
We all are like, duh, you're crazy to demand to be on someone's Instagram, right? However, we're on it all the time. Yes. So it does matter. We can't act like it doesn't matter. It does. Right. Yeah. But it's like, there's some people genuinely, like if you looked at their page, haven't posted for a year. Where you're like, oh, you really are not on here. Right.
Yeah.
So it's something of like, it's not crazy because that's also like a little bit of a love language that we know so many couples, they constantly are posting that they're together. Yeah. And I'm sitting there being like, I would not be that person, but I also would not be the person that you would have to scroll a few times to find my man. Like if you're my man, my boyfriend, I probably have a rule of like, probably have to be dating at least like 6 months, maybe even a year, just of like things always, we're in cities, it's like there's a lot of 3-month things that I'm like, I'm not posting a picture of us month 1 and then month 2 you're gone. Like, mainly because I don't want the questions from friends of like, what happened, you posted, that seems serious. It's like,
it's a big deal to but that's also changed because when Instagram first came out and it wasn't the thing everyone did, you might be on a fun date like month 1 and you might just grab a good pic and you'd post it. And there's no significance because it's just like, I look good in this pic. There happens to be a person there. Now, because we're all on it, we know people are detectiving. Like, so now now it's like, you can't do that. I wouldn't post the third date picture. That's insane. Like,
yes. Mm-hmm. I think it's more crazy to be like mad. Like if a man sent me flowers and I did not post, oh, I got flowers from my guy. He's the best. Thank you. And if he was mad, I would understand
People
him
get
being
mad about that.
Yeah, something like that. Like along those lines, because to me, I'm like, that's kind of materialistic.
Yeah.
Or it's like, then the question's like, did you just send me the flowers to have me upload the flowers?
Yeah, weird.
Like it's, you know what I mean? Like me thanking you or like in person, because it's like, I don't know if I'd take a picture of the romantic dinner we had at Valentine's Day. I'd probably put a picture of us two together, but because it just feels materialistic and braggy.
Yes.
But I think because I've been single way more of my life than technically off the market, I'm very conscious of like being annoying to single people.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Thinking, yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, because I think the bragging stuff, people do it. I think it's annoying, but I think it's all context. Like if you were the kind of person who posted everything your friends gave you, let's say it was your birthday.
True.
And you reposted all of your birthday tag stories, all of the flowers and gifts your friends got you, except for your boyfriend. Then I'd be like, what's happening here?
Right. But that's kind of like weirdly a love language in a way. It almost is like your love language is gifts. So you're so excited that someone gave you gifts, your friend, your boyfriend, whoever. Like there is something nice to be like, oh, my person's so sweet. Like you're showing affection in a way. So it's something like, even with that, I think it's a love language of like, how do you show affection? Someone might be mad that you didn't upload the flowers to your, like, oh, well, you didn't even put it in your Instagram story. And it's like, and you could sit there and go, oh, that person's crazy. And it's like, it's not crazy if it matters to you. Like, you can't control how people feel. So it's something of like, I had a breakup recently, and like this guy and I were not near like taking photos and posting, right? It's like 4 months, but we did have some photos together. It's like, well, I have them on my phone, and we didn't do the unfollow, block, all that stuff.
Sure.
But it's like, there's something in me being like, there will be a day that a picture of you and some other girl is on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And when it comes and I see it, if I am fully over it, I won't care. But if I'm not, I might do the block and delete.
It's like a roulette. Yeah.
It's right. It's like one of us is going to get that photo on the Instagram first.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like not even be jealous or almost like feel like competitive in that sense.
Well, that's why I tend to think when people post, it's for other people. It's never for the person you're in a relationship with. Because if I'm...
Well, I'd argue sometimes men will post something just because it makes their girl happy, but continue.
Well, that's okay. But I mean, like, they're not posting... if you're in a relationship and you're talking every day, they're not posting you to be like, this is how she's going to find out I love her. They're posting for the world to know. Mm-hmm. And I've like, that's because I mean, you know, I've been there. I'm like less petty now, but I've been there where if I post flowers or something nice that someone said, it tends to be there's someone in my mind who I want to see that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And if I'm with that person already that I love, like, I don't always post them because I'm like, you're the person I would want to make jealous, and you're the person who
when you dump me, I'll be posting.
Right, but of course, for their mind, they're like, why are you posting all your friends' stuff? And it's like, because I don't know, they're not you. Like, you're the person whose affection I want.
I like that.
But I don't know. It's just, but that's always been a thing because you do feel crazy when you ask about social media. Because we're on that cusp of like, we grew up without it. But I think you're right. Like, we use it so much. It's not crazy.
Well, it's the same as if you're at an office on Valentine's Day and every girl in the office that has a boyfriend and you have a boyfriend gets flowers and you don't. Yeah. That's not so on social media, but you're sitting there being like, what the fuck?
Right.
So it's the same thing as if all those girls were posting on their Instagram they got flowers from their man and you don't have flowers to post from yours. It's the same thing, but it's just in a different reality. It's just virtual. That's true. Or there's something too being like, it's our anniversary, motherfucker. Don't you want to celebrate a little bit and like show me off or show a little love and affection? Like, so it's like, there's some people being like, I don't give a shit if he posts on his Instagram for our anniversary. And there's some people that go, yeah, I wrote a nice thing about you. It was like giving you a card. It's like,
yeah, that's true. So, it's a card. That's
right.
Nice.
Or like, I'm a card person. So I gave this dude a card for like Christmas and like his birthday, but like I didn't get a card on Christmas, which is fine. He wrote me a nice note. He like texted me a nice thing that morning. So it's like, we could technically count it. But I'm not going to lie, part of me when we exchanged gifts was a little annoyed I didn't get a card.
Especially if the first time is okay, but then he learns that you're a card person, then he should go get the card.
Right? It's just nice. But some people don't. It's like a love language thing. It's like, oh, he's not a type to like write a nice card the same way he wouldn't be the type to post a picture and write me a nice thing.
What are your thoughts on, okay, because this just happened to me. It's not a person, I'm not in a relationship, but it's someone who I'm romantically involved with. Mm-hmm. But he texted me, like, he called me homie on text. And
on Valentine's Day?
No, not on Valentine's Day.
Oh my God. Day. I was like, well,
no, that would be.
It's like, well, you're a homie. Happy Valentine's,
like,
homie.
You need to read the signs. No, it was like in the context of something, but it was like, it threw me off. But like, I read that as like, that's a very like friendly, non-sexual way to call someone. Yeah. But I also think sometimes people just say that without thinking. But my question is that something, if it bothers me, and it doesn't bother me that much, but enough for me to be like, what does this mean? Does it make more sense to just be like, call it out? Or is it better to be like, let me not say? Because this is where I think I'm crazy. It's like, obviously, I've noticed a thing, but now saying it might sound insane.
You're not crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
Men
like,
have
how much
mastered,
do you address that?
Men have mastered, I assume this is a man you're talking about, but men have mastered things basically making us seem crazy for totally reasonable questions. Yeah. Because you're like, I'm not, I just want an answer. Is it like crazy to me like is demanding them to do something
naked?
Yeah.
Or like,
well, exactly. Well, because I'm like, when you say romantically involved, do you hang out outside a bedroom ever?
Yes. And so,
so it's like dating. It's a vague dating.
But it's not, but it is a thing where I'm like, maybe it's that this is a thing where we have different views. Like I would never call some, like, unless it's a joke. Like, I don't know. Like, if I don't really use baby a lot either, but it just feels like, whoa. That feels like so much like a bro. Like, you're like, hey, bro, what's up, bro? Like, so I don't know. But then I'm like, is this something I ask about because it just, or is it something I'm just like, I'm just going to assume that you meant what you meant?
Well, it's something of, I think, it's clearly, this isn't a thing that's hard of like, what are we? Because that seems like when you have that conversation, you have to know what you want. And if it's not what you want, you should walk away. Right. But it's more, I've accidentally called a guy dude, like in person, just like, dude, but it wasn't me calling them dude, but they just were like, did you just call me dude?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh, I didn't, that's not what they just kind of were like, I don't like that. So I think you could easily just be like, hey, I feel weird you calling me homie. Like, I think that's all you can say is just like, if it happens, especially if it happens again, be like, can I be honest with you about something? And they'll be like, yeah. And you go, you calling me homie, I don't really like, rubs me the wrong way.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do the whole,
easier just
are we just friends?
As it comes up. Yeah.
But it's basically being like, because sometimes it's a habit. I call people homie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, love you, homie,
you
or
don't
whatever.
Think about it, but if you actively, like, even if that's not what they meant, but if you actively say, like, don't call me that, then they'll start putting you in a different category.
It's true.
I do think language changes the way, like, I've only dated one person ever that called me baby, and I did like it, but I've never, because I didn't ever do that. I don't initiate. And this guy was like, just like baby guy. So
that was his thing.
And it made me feel from the beginning, before we were exclusive, that I was like, oh, I'm the baby. Like, I was like, I like this.
Or so babe, there's something to, it's a way of being like, this is my girl. Yeah. But homie's like, this is my homie. This is my friend. Because I was like, it might be a habit. I call people homie, so it's like, I could slip and just call someone homie. Especially like my relationship of like, when we be on the phone talking, then you do the goodbye. There's almost this thing, you're like, we're not in love, but it feels like I should say I love you.
I love you. What do you say?
Right? You're like, okay, well, I'd always be like, I miss you is usually what I would say, or like, can't wait to see you, or whatever it was. Like, I would, but it's like you want to end on a nice note.
Yeah, like, I love,
but it's kind of weird when you're
voice.
Yeah, I'm like, the only people I really talk to on the phone are like my parents, and it's at the end is always, all right, love you, honey, and you're like, love you too, mom. So it's like, it's almost a weird habit of like, the only people I call are people I love. So it's like, how do you wrap that? It's kind of the same. So I think it's almost a habit. I don't know what the sentence was, but calling you homie might have just been, you're like on the fly running around, you shoot some text, and you're like, oh yeah, like homie. Yeah. That's why I was like, if it's a happy Valentine's homie, that's...
No, that would make me cry.
Ask this? I don't know how much you talk about relationships, but what happened on Valentine's Day? Did they do anything? They
did, yeah. I mean, it's very new. We had a nice date, and he asked me to be his Valentine, so.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, he's into you. Yeah, but if they do nothing, they're not into it.
Yeah, but how insecure I am is like, if a day goes by, because everything has changed.
You're still in wishy face. You haven't even been like, are you dating other people? Yeah. Which most likely, usually Valentine's dudes fucking run or they disappear.
I'm super curious about that right now. I feel like for once very present and happy, but
so you got to more think, are they good enough for me?
Yeah,
am I good enough for them? You're like, I'm fucking great.
True.
Are you good enough for me?
Is it fun now? And then if I do wonder, I'll ask. Yeah. But
but you gotta. I'm like you, man. It's hard to just stay in like, we're having fun.
A day. I could be like the best night of my life, and then in 8 hours will go by, and then I'll be like, everything's changed. He's met someone else, and well, I haven't heard from him, so he's already in love with someone else. I guess it's time to delete his number, and then I'll do all that in my head.
Oh my god, wow. That's a lot. That is a lot.
And I'm like, this is insane, Teresa.
Yeah. That's the weird game. Yeah. The game you have in the beginning.
But speaking of telling people things, Erica, is there something you would like to tell me?
Yeah, so I guess my confession of the episode is I've had herpes type 1 for like it'll be 4 years this summer. So almost 4 years. Yeah. So I recently kind of publicly came out about it on my own podcast. But that was only like a couple months ago. Okay. So yeah, it's like I'm kind of public about it, but not crazy
testing the
public.
Waters. Well, as a comedian, I'm sure it's crossed your mind about whether you want to do comedy better or not. So was that an active decision, or did you play around with material and then decide not to do it, or how did you approach it in that form?
I have tried a little bit of talking about it on stage, like more like almost like a riff of like when I was hosting my own show, because it was like, I feel comfortable. It's my show. I'm in that environment a lot. But there was kind of something to comedy is like high school, where if you go to an open mic, pretty much everybody, right? Especially I'm in LA now, but when I was in New York, it's like I knew everyone.
Sure, yeah.
So it's almost like I used to be more fearless at mics. You're like, I don't know anyone in this room. You're like, I'll talk about whatever I want to. But that was like, I knew there was a room of 40 people that had no idea I had herpes. And the minute if I said it on stage, no one's going to hear anything I've worked on bit-wise. Because the whole room's almost going to be that, wait, what? What did you just say?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, it's the same of like, I mean, I hate to say this, compare it, but it's the same of I've had people like, you have no idea they're gay, and they go on stage and they're like doing a joke about being gay, and you're like, oh shit, they're gay? You're like, oh, I had no idea.
Right.
Like, but I didn't hear the joke just because I was like, new information.
Well, people speaking of relationships, I think people do that with status too. Well, at least more when you're starting out. I think it's less like high school in LA, but in New York, I feel like if I wrote a joke about
I just had a breakup
because I wanted to do a joke, of course people are like, wait, what? And
yeah, they're like, oh, is that recent?
Yeah, or you can't even do stuff about, like, you know, people will infer if you're like, I wrote this joke about someone I dated a while ago, but then you're talking about it. Yeah. They're like, who was that about? And then if you deny it, then they think it's who they think.
Oh yeah, whatever. We're all nosy. We're all nosy little bitches.
Although I have been in the I try not to get like petty on stage, but I have been in the audience when couples are like, but both going through a breakup and doing material about each other.
Well, that's uncomfortable.
Awful for everyone, but like there is something about it that's like fun to watch. Like watching a train wreck. I like don't want to be that, but yeah, when they do, I'm like, wow, ruthless, man, savage.
Yeah, or the same of when they are currently in a relationship and they're doing jokes about my girlfriend, my boyfriend, and you know who it's about, makes it like a little uncomfortable on some level. Yeah, but fortunately, I never had to really navigate that with comedians.
So you just recently made the decision, because I'm assuming it was a decision to talk about it openly, or did you sort of just like, now it feels right?
Both. Like, I definitely wasn't like, I mean, even now it's like there's always going to be times that like I don't feel okay with it. Sure. And it kind of weirdly was also a challenge of like, well, this is going to make you be more okay with it, because you're essentially every week having a podcast where you're talking about dating, and so typically stuff that's related to herpes comes up because it's the whole how do you tell someone or blah blah blah. And especially right now I'm like fresh off a breakup, so it's like, oh, I'm now back out there being like I gotta get rejected again, like kind of feeling. So it's like there's always going to be levels of it that help me kind of get more comfortable and talk about it, because definitely for the first year I was like just a mess the whole time. And then like I even went back to the guy that like gave it to me and like tried to date him again, but it was mainly because you're just like, oh, I just was out here getting rejected. And it's just like, well, I know you wouldn't reject me for sex, at least, you know, because you're like, well, I'm human.
Were you guys in a relationship?
No, it wasn't an official thing. Okay. That was a guy that you know, had a girlfriend the whole time, but I didn't find out till round 2. So it's like, wait, this has been there the whole time? What? It's like, what the hell?
The whole time from the, oh man.
Yeah. And then that was a dilemma of like, when I found out the second time.
Did he know he had it?
He says he didn't, and I'll never really know if he did or not. Because it's also like, I wasn't super adamant of like, I asked him to go get tested to be like, well, I want to make sure I got this from you type thing, which I knew that I did because I had like 2 bumps. Went to the doctor the next morning because all of a sudden it was 4, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was like 8 a.m. on a Saturday. I was like, City MD, what's up?
Oh my gosh.
And they very quickly were like, oh yeah, this is herpes, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa. I was like, you looked for 1 second. And they were like, oh, it's most likely what it is. So they were like, gave me like medicine for it and stuff, and they took my blood. And they were like, if you get it, you're supposed to go to a dermatologist, but it's a Saturday, none are open. So if you do get it, because it's a skin condition or disease. So Monday I went to the dermatologist because I was like full outbreak, and they take a swab test, which is just more accurate of which type you have, do you have it, etc. So, but I got my blood results like that Monday midday, and it came out negative. And so I called them and I was like, okay, well, like I went to the derm and all this stuff, and they were like, yeah, it came out negative because you just got it. Because there's a second number of the test that like kind of shows how active it is, because it can be dormant in your body. So it wasn't
something that like had an outbreak. This was like you definitely just caught it.
Yeah, like I didn't have the antibodies for it basically. So I didn't have anything fighting it off yet because it was so new. So they were like, well, you came in so quickly and whatever, but even if I didn't come in quickly, it won't show up in your blood for like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. So a lot of times it's like, yeah, you don't know. That's kind of, it's part of the, well, it's not part of routine STD testing, which people don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that because people because it's pretty common, but there's a lot of panic around it that doctors now won't test unless you specifically ask for it.
Well, even if you ask, because I've had people be like, call me and be like, I slept with someone that had herpes and I went to my doctor to get tested, and they were like, oh, but you don't have an outbreak, you're fine. I said, well, they're partly doing that because they've shown studies that it actually affects your mental health way more than it doesn't affect your physical health at all, actually. Like, it literally doesn't unless you're currently having an outbreak and it's, like, uncomfortable. But other than that, it's, like, it's not detrimental to anything. It doesn't affect your ability to have kids. You could still donate blood. Like, so it's very, like, you're fine.
Right. I think, there's definitely a lot of, I'm guessing, you might know more than I do, but, like, like a lot of pharma push for the panic, right?
Well, yes. There used to be no stigma about it till actually after the AIDS epidemic. So during the 80s when AIDS was huge and it was like, whoa, 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 and all of a sudden the safe sex movement, it was like back then when people got either like genital warts, which is HPV, or herpes, like if you were like, oh my God, something's wrong, and you went to the doctor, they're like, oh, it's just herpes. Because basically it was like, you don't have AIDS or HIV, you're good.
Okay.
Right? And it also, literally, both of those things don't affect your health. So it kind of was like, oh, okay. And then when basically Valtrex was invented to help like suppress it, because it used to just be like you just kind of had to go through the outbreak, maybe ice it, some ointments, stuff like that. Like there really wasn't anything to get it down quickly. But then when they came out with...
Is it on your face? You're like, oh, for this week, I'm just going to have a spot in my face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they came out with the Valtrex, it first was like, okay, when you have an outbreak, you take some Valtrex, it goes away. Same with like, if you had a headache, you took some Advil, goes away. Same thing. But then I can't find the research on this, but my friend did, of like, they basically instilled this fear and this fear of giving it to people and a whole stigma around it, because it was like, okay, so say someone that has herpes has 2 outbreaks a year. How many pills are you selling? Say 20.
Gotcha.
They're like, oh, but if we now condense it to a smaller size, so it's like 100 milligrams, and you're basically like, this is preventative, which it does help. But it's like, oh, now you're taking 365 pills a year.
Gotcha.
So they're making more money.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's really what the push is for it.
Damn. Yeah. Because I can't remember where I heard that, but I do remember it being like related to like pharma.
Yeah. I mean, so much is in life.
That's, man, pharmaceutical industry sucks.
Yeah. Well, you're going to naturally have a fear when you first get it too.
Yeah. Well, but also because there is a society stigma that they did create it, but it does now exist. So it's like, it's not to negate that experience because it does exist now.
Yeah.
Because they created.
Also, like I, like many people, really only have this first outbreak. And then I have not had one since. There's only been a very few times that I felt like, oh, something feels a little off. Let me take a couple pills just to be like, just in case, right? But that first year I had it, I was terrified, partly because that first outbreak is painful and it's so fresh in your memory that you're like, all you can think is, the last thing I would ever want to do is give this to anybody else.
Gotcha.
Whether it's literally someone I'm in love with or someone I hate. Like, you're just like, no one deserves to get this thing. So, like, I took the Valtrex every day for like a year. And then I actually just naturally ran out. And I just, like, I think I was like out of town or something. So I just wasn't taking it. And then I also wasn't seeing anybody. So I was like, well, let me see if I'm okay to not take it and I'm fine. And I've pretty much been fine ever since. So when I, like, started dating that guy, I did start taking it just to be like, oh, okay, like precaution, like we might have sex soon, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's more to make them feel comfortable because I was kind of sitting there being like, I feel exactly the same as I did before. But yeah, it's a whole thing of, actually mainly also made me stop taking it was I found this like support group through like Meetup that was an all women's one. Okay. And that really helped just to like meet other people that had it. Cause like just walking in the room being like, oh, there's 12 other people that like, and it sounds judgy, but you're like literally that are normal looking people, like all these women that are badass, great women. And like everyone got it in some way or one or the other. So it was like, oh, whole room that understands. And they were all talking about how some of them would try not taking it for a few months. And they were like, oh, I'd have an outbreak once a month. So for me, it's worth it to take it and all that stuff. So it made me be like, oh, okay, especially type 1 is technically quote cold sores.
Gotcha.
But it's like I have it downstairs. So it's like people often are like, no, that one's on your mouth. I'm like, no, you can get it both places. Type 2 you can typically is like it's like 1 in a million that you get it on your mouth. It is the general region. So that's like mainly the difference between the two and why there's 2 types. But it's like really it's all herpes and
so you've number 1. You're
number
one in herpes. But I love support groups. I've gone to ones before and I think it gives you something different than like a one-on-one talk therapy because it's the shared experience and then just feeling like you have even just being able to share to someone who like isn't just listening to say like, oh, how does that make you feel? But more like, me too. I have that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like, the biggest thing is like, I did eventually after that, I tried like one-on-one therapy after I did those, but it was mainly because I went back with that guy, found out he had a girlfriend. And then immediately after I started hanging out with someone, turns out they were in an open relationship, didn't tell me. And it just was 2 back-to-back that I was like, am I doing something? Am I seeking out something? Turns out now he's like, well, it's just New York and some people are shitty. But, there's something too, though, even with a doctor literally telling me, like, this is not a big deal. So many people have it. I have, like, many patients every day technically have this. You're fine. you wouldn't want to be with someone anyway that wouldn't accept this. And then you're like, cool. Do you have it? And they're like, no. Like they're almost like, God. I'm a doctor. Like that doesn't come off that way, but that's how you hear it. So
I mean, I don't know if you're planning to ever do material, but if you do, that's really funny to like have the doctor make you feel better and then be like, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's not how they react, but it feels that way.
Sure.
When you're in the chair crying, terrified of this thing that you just got, and they're like, this is not a big deal, and you're like, do you have it? And they're like, no.
It's like that idea.
You're like, so it's easy for you to say.
Yeah, it's like it's the idea of like if you're with a partner and they're like, it's okay, we'll get through this, but then you find out you don't or something, and then they're like, oh, thank fucking God. And you're like, yeah, were you really supportive?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I found out about the doctors don't test because my last ex cheated on me, and then I had found out through other women that one of the women he slept with had herpes, and not on her, whatever. I'm sure she was safe with it, but it just made me be like, still, is he being safe? I don't know. So I like went and like got tested for everything, and I had to ask. They like didn't want to give it to me, but I was like, no, please. And but then that's when I found like they won't do it usually. They'll say sometimes like, okay, we test you for everything, but unless you specifically say I want the HSV test, they won't do it. Yeah,
the guy I was just seeing, I said that too, and he was like, wait, what? I was like, no, you have to ask. And or sometimes like when I get my yearly, they ask me if I want like the HIV test, which is blood, and so then the herpes thing also comes with it indirectly, but even that, it's like you have to ask for and like sign a consent form on because it's taking your blood, which is like with men, I was like, actually, I asked that guy, I was like, when you get an STD test, like we get swabbed, we're at a gyno, everything's in there, right? So, you do a pee before, which is mainly to see if you're pregnant, but I guess that also tests for some STDs, and then you could do the blood. So for him, I was like, what do they do when you walk in and you say, I want an STD test? And they pee in a cup and they take their blood, which is weirdly like, so they take your blood, but they're not. Or actually, even that might be not for sure. I think that's if you say HIV/AIDS test. But even that, it's weird to be like, so they're already taking your blood, but they don't give herpes.
Well, I've had guys I've dated say they went to like a doctor and like, yeah, they said I'm good, I don't have anything, but they didn't get a test. They just said they looked at. And I was like, I'm pretty sure like either you're lying or that doctor's lying to you. But like, I feel like a lot of guys don't know how to get tested. What? Well, they'll just say I'm clean. I'm like, did you test for anything, or did you just go to a doctor and they didn't say anything?
Well, like, I mean, not to get too gross, so heads up, but a lot of times like women will go to the doctor thinking they might have an STD and it's like chlamydia or gonorrhea, and doctors will be like, oh, you have a yeast infection, and it's not, but they don't test them. But then it's the same for men of like men can technically get UTIs, but it's way more rare. Sure, that tends to be more of an age thing that naturally comes or whatever. But men, the reason like we get tested for chlamydia and gonorrhea every time we go to the gyno basically for our yearly exam is because we don't show symptoms. True. We don't show symptoms that are drastically different than from whatever we were having, right? So for men though, they do. So it's kind of this thing of like when they go in, if they're like, but they're asking them questions of like, have you been randomly having discharge, or like, does it hurt when you pee and stuff like that. So it's like a lot of times when they go in, it typically usually is because they're having some type of symptom and they're like, something's going on, doesn't feel right. But it's also like, I've known people that they were like, oh, I thought I had herpes, but I just had the one outbreak and it went away. It's like, I'm good. I'm like, no, you still have it. You still have it then. It's in your system. But it is true of also the longer you have herpes, the less likely you are to give it to somebody because it becomes like more and more dormant in your system. I mean, that also depends on the person, but sure, it's something like I haven't given it to anybody, but you know, it's always still this like, there's a chance. Yeah. Well, how does it come up in dating? Like, what do you bring it up early on, or is it something that is it more casual now that you've kind of navigated it a bit? So funny, the guy I was just dating, literally I went on like 2 dates with right before my podcast came out. Okay. And so he was like, oh, your podcast is done. The first episode we had was just like fun. He did. Oh yeah. And he listened to all of them, which was actually really nice. And like, he was very supportive. But so he found out through our second episode where I like disclosed it. Oh, okay. Type of thing. So you didn't tell him personally. No. And it was something that I was debating doing. Gotcha. And then it was like, he listened to the first episode and like texted me. He's like, oh, it was really funny. I liked it, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, starting episode 2 now. And I was like, what's up? Like, I was like, okay. And I was just weirdly like, but he had already probably he was like, I'm gonna let her know I'm starting it, but I actually already finished it now. Yeah, it was a weird, because then all of a sudden he was live texting because he was like, man, this stuff, my co-host, her half of the podcast isn't dating with herpes. Hers is her like her family's very close and her sister doesn't talk to her family anymore. So hers is kind of navigating dating through like family baggage.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, most people do. You know what's so funny is like when we first released it, she kind of jokingly was like, I thought like more people would be like, holy shit, this herpes thing. But she got so many people reaching out to her that she's like, I had no idea that they were basically going through similar stuff of a sibling that doesn't talk to the family anymore, or a grandparent, or this. So it's like, I was just like, damn, it's almost like yours is just as common as herpes.
Your herpes is over, Erica.
Right? But so it was interesting that he found out through that medium. And later when I saw him and we like talked and stuff, and he was like, yeah, I don't, like, he's like, it's not something that I would let, like, stop this or whatever. Also, we weren't physical yet. So he was like, you know, he's like, yeah, I want to see where this goes, which is very nice and kind. But also he said he really liked that he found out in a way that was like, he could really just listen to what I was saying and not really have to react to me face to face.
Oh, interesting, because it's kind of goes back to what we're talking about projecting.
Yes.
There's a fear of like, am I reacting the right way? And I have to like put this on you so you don't react and make me uncomfortable. Yeah.
Or it's also, I've done pretty much all the people before that was I would only really tell them or say something when it was like clear that we were about to be physical.
Gotcha.
And then that I was later like, you know what? It never worked, first of all. No, there's only one time
what do you
someone...
mean it never worked? Like they walked out?
Or they didn't leave, but it was like we didn't have sex.
Gotcha.
So...
Because you're kind of... it's like right before game time.
Yes.
Like, just so you know, here's another thing to add to this thing you thought you decided about.
Basically.
Gotcha.
Because you feel... Like you were talking about feeling crazy. You feel crazy being like, am I feeling this vibe correctly?
Yeah.
Or is he probably coming over later? Like... But either way, like if I was on a date with someone like at dinner, you're still telling them to their face that there's this like... I mean, I would... It's like when anyone opens up to you about something. Yeah. Part of you is like, don't freak out or like be really cool. Like keep... like they're calm, stay calm. You know, whatever the thing is, you want to be like, just listen and like be there for them. You know? So it's like that. It's like partly it's their reaction to you. So I've only had one person just be like, oh yeah, that's... Yeah, like I know a bunch of people have it. It's not a big deal. Like he's like, oh, you take the meds? I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we'll use a condom. It's fine. It's like, oh, okay. Like I only had one that it was like, oh, all right, that was nothing, right? But a lot of times there's kind of this thing of like telling them is also being like, hey, I have this thing. Also, like, you want to accept it like right now, yes or no?
Gotcha.
Because you're about to hook up.
Okay.
So that might work in your favor of like the dude has boner brain and is like horny and like I want to hook up, but then sometimes it also just backfires because it's like that was a lot to take in and I'm just like I need a minute. Yeah. Kind of thing. But the first thing pretty much all of them have ever said is they just like, wow, I can't believe you told me.
What? Oh my God.
Like kind of like, can't believe you told me. They're like, wow, you're a really good person. I'm like, who do you think I am? God. You know? I mean, that being said, there were a couple people I didn't tell, but.
Yeah. Well, that's a little peek into how, not all men, but a lot of guys, if a lot of them are saying that, I'm like, how many of them are out there acting that way? But that's also why I feel like a lot of men don't get tested. Because I don't think a lot of guys like to think of themselves as good guys. Again, not all men. And women do this too. But having dated in both pools, I feel like men, the ones I've met, I'm like so careful. Don't cancel me, men. I love you guys too.
Listen, we're all shady dudes sometimes.
Like when dudes don't get tested, sometimes it's because they think of themselves as a good guy. So they think if I knew I had something, I would tell people. But then there's almost this like willful ignorance where like, well, if I don't have symptoms, if I don't get tested, then I'm technically like not doing a bad thing. But I think a lot of guys think that way because whenever I've like, I don't know, because I get tested, I try to do it after every partnered, which is excessive. I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, but
no, but I mean, it's better to be that way than the other way. It's something like even if you're not crazy active or right after a partner, it's because some things take a while to show up. But it's like twice a year, right? So it's like every 6 months.
But you also can't guarantee. Reasonable. That's the other thing when people are like, "Are you clean?" Like it's like I'm like, unless you've actually been tested, you're just like, I don't know. Yeah, you're like, I haven't seen anything. Don't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know.
But that's what's crazy to me is how I've never been asked if I'm clean by somebody. Only one time because they didn't want to use condoms. We're like, when's the last time you got tested? And like all that. But it was before I had herpes. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, my yearly thing. Or like, I've never been super promiscuous. Like Like, yeah, technically my number has racked up because it's like, well, I've been having sex since 18 and I'm about to turn 29. So it's like, yeah, it's at least 10. You know what I mean? Like, there's at least one a year slipping in. You know what I mean?
Especially also if you're single, you end up having, you're actually having more sex with more people, but like less sex.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my God. It's something that's like, dude, if you're the type to be like in several couple year relationships and ever fucking frown on someone for having more partners, I'm like, I've been single. Literally, my last boyfriend was definitely my high school boyfriend at 16, who I did not have sex with. So it's like, I literally have not had sex with someone that was my boyfriend. I've only had 2 people that it was like, quote, exclusively us sleeping together.
Sure.
Oh no, 3 that it was exclusively, I know you're not sleeping with other people, I'm not sleeping with other people, but not boyfriend.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, those were 3 months. So there was 3-month parts of my life that I technically was not on the market to hook up with anybody.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, if you map out college of like, you know how much people are fucking in college? So like if you're single in college, it's like you easily can be hooking up with someone once a semester. And there's 8 semesters.
Right.
So your number could easily hit 8 in college.
Even if you never see that person again, it's going to feel like more.
Yeah. But you're like, I hate that if you're like, oh, yeah, technically I have some more people than you, but you have had way more sex than me.
I've been single most of my life too. And so I've had to take issue with the number because I'm pretty like careful, but I have fun.
Well, who cares?
But if I was in a relationship, I would be having way more sex. But like if I'm not, you know what I mean? It adds in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're like, am I really a whore if I'm just, doing missionary with everybody? You know what I mean? It's like, where's the whore? I am a whore,
so it's okay. No.
It's like, where's the whore line? It's just, I mean, no one should frown on anybody for their number for any reason. Like, it's also stupid.
Yeah. It is so hard to talk about like STDs though, I've found, because I think it's like, I don't know if it's our generation. I one time like I was dating, not like just a hookup, but it wasn't serious, but like someone I met online, a guy, and he was younger, he was like 23, and he's the only person I've ever dated that like was so, I think that I don't want to generalize about the younger generation, but I do feel like their approach is so different than my generation.
Really?
Because it was so open. Like he was just straight up like said he didn't get tested recently. So like he just let me know and was just like not in a way to like to stop anything. It was like we can stop sex, but like here's all my info. And I was like, whoa. Like I was so floored by the honesty that I was like, oh man, the Gen Z's got to figure it out. I sound like such a cradle robber.
No,
right
what kind of answer this? Was he trying to like hit it raw though?
No, actually he said it because he didn't want me to go down on him.
He didn't want you to.
Not because he didn't like it, but he said, I haven't been tested recently.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't even know. I mean, you're right. That could give me something. But wow, my generation
it's very rare, but
just doesn't care, I guess. Like they don't even consider that.
I mean, I don't know how much of Gen C you've, interacted with sexually, but I feel like it depends on the person. I was the type that I always asked all my partners, have you ever had an STD? Do you currently have an STD? Mm-hmm. Because I knew the stats of how common herpes was before I even had it. So that was something too. It's like I asked the person that gave it to me, had they ever been tested? Do they have anything? Blah, blah, blah. When was the last time you got tested? And they were like, yeah, I'm clean, all that stuff. So, but it's so crazy to be.
For like, because I mean, I feel like I use condoms for sex, but like for blowjobs, I wasn't like, I'll put on a condom. So I think
that I've never done that either.
Crossed my mind. But then the fact that he said that, I was like, oh. Yeah, no thanks. I guess, yeah.
Or it's like a dental dam.
Thanks for letting me know that.
Stuff like that.
So I guess we'll wait till you get tested.
Yeah. I haven't with with oral. But it's something of like, I did have guys essentially, like the guy I just did was the only guy that knew I had herpes and went down on me. Mm-hmm. All the other ones, it's not like they wouldn't get you off type thing, but it's like when they knew I had herpes, they wouldn't go down. And I was like, it's actually nearly impossible for you to get this that way on your mouth. So it's so funny to be like, you're actually more likely to get it on your dick, but you're willing to put your dick in there, but you won't go down on a girl.
That's so, it's so interesting the way our brains like will convince ourselves certain odd. Things or, Well, I'm curious because it seems like you're very comfortable talking about this now. Obviously, you talked about on your podcast. I'm curious if you're cool talking about like the early part, like when you first found out, because I'm interested in sort of the story of like, obviously it sounds like it was very traumatizing to figure this out. Sucks, how did you cope with it, and like sort of what was your thought process in all that?
I mean, I definitely was like, it was the first time in my life I'm really not a crier ever. Mm-hmm. Like I have so many friends that they're like, oh my God, I cry all the time. Oh my God, I was watching this music video and it made me cry. Like, and I just have never been that way because I kind of, growing up in sports, it's like all of sports is actually about controlling your emotions and not reacting negatively. So there's this thing of like never let them see you sweat, and like you let stuff roll off and kind of not bother you, because you're like, one play is bad, but it's like, especially basketball, it's like, quote, it's a game of mistakes. So it's like the team that makes the least amount of mistakes wins. So it's like, if you make one mistake, if you get mad and react, that's 2 mistakes. Like, that's kind of the mentality I've been like brought up with. But I mean, the main thing, like, this is so sad to say, but it's like, when I first got it, literally I remember sitting in the chair at the office when they were like, yeah, this is probably herpes, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and they like left the room, and like I was just like waiting there. But my first thought was literally like, you couldn't get a boyfriend without herpes, how are you gonna get one now?
Oh my gosh.
And it's such a classic like woman thing to think, because we're still so pressured of like, and are you dating anybody? Like I'm about to do court-in, and it's like, so I'm gonna have people reaching out like, oh my god, so awesome, congrats, blah blah blah. But then it's gonna be those people like family members or whoever that is just like, oh, we haven't talked in a minute, how are you? Are you seeing anyone? And you're like, I just did a fucking late night set that I had to work almost 7 years to get, right? That it's like, that was a huge accomplishment. Why the fuck would you be asking me
if anybody ever asks you, what can I do to get caught? You should be like, well, I have herpes, so you should try getting herpes.
Even though, I'm not doing jokes about it, but like, get herpes, get sad, and just like double down and work.
That's just a joke. There's nothing wrong with herpes.
Sorry, but that's like a sidetrack.
I think it would be a funny way to shut someone down.
Oof. But like, yeah, that really was like my first core thought, and that just was like crushed me, and also was kind of the thought that had me like stay around with the person that gave me herpes, even though it was like, we kind of were dating, but it was that thing. It was like,
bad situation.
We had slept together for the first time. Week later, I had it. So it's like, oof. Yeah. I mean, really, you want to talk about brand new into seeing someone, like we were hanging out maybe a month, like not that much. It wasn't the like constantly talking, like all this stuff. So even like hitting him up to kind of be like, oh, what are you doing? Because I like was like, I have something to tell you.
Yeah.
And like even that was a weird, like he didn't answer right away, and then all of a sudden I just was like, I need to talk to you. And then all of a sudden he was like, are you okay? What's up? Like, everything all right? And I was like, I am and I'm not. I was like, but just I have worked till this time.
Were you nervous about telling him, even though you're pretty sure he gave it to you? Like
it's not nervous. It's more, it's like you telling someone is admitting that you have it.
Sure.
In a weird way. And also with him, it was a Friday night that I saw 2 bumps, a Saturday morning that I went to the doctor and they told me. So it's like, that was Monday. So I also was being like, I'm waiting for that test. And I got the results in that test that was negative, which made me be like, okay, well, this clearly is it by now, so it's from this person. So it's like, I knew, but I didn't want to come accusatory, because it's like, this is about to be a bomb.
Were you angry at him at all?
No, because I was just a mess and just like sad. I was just like, for me, I was just so like disappointed and mad at myself, because I just like felt like I let myself down, because I basically was like, how could you let this happen? Like, or something where you're like, I was someone doing everything, quote, correctly. I literally was never sleeping with people without condoms. Like, there was only one person I did, which was, no, two. The two, like, guys that I was committed to, and I knew they weren't sleeping with other people type thing. So it's like, I was like sitting there like, I did everything right. How the fuck did I get this? Or even like, you sit there being like, you know, for me personally, I was like, this is my only new partner in a year.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I'm not even out here fucking everybody. But then like the minute you,
at least I want to have, I should have been out there more.
Yeah. Or it's something that's like, man, I partly wasn't, because I was like, I didn't want to get any STDs. Yeah. Or like, man, I was also sitting there being like, I don't even have HPV yet. Apparently everybody's got HPV, and I don't even have that. I got no HPV. Funny. I never had chlamydia. I didn't get a warning STD. I just got I got the big dogs.
There's no gateway.
Yeah, I got the big dogs up top, which is like, that just sucks. Or also, you know, when you first get it, it's very much something that there's so many people that have it, but obviously don't publicly say. Because even when I got it, I really only told one friend for a very long time. So it's like, there was only one person that really knew, and obviously the person that gave it to me. And then I did hit up the person I dated right before him, not right before him, like the year before, because partly that guy was in medical school.
Okay.
So I partly was like, hey, blah, 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 like I'm kind of freaking out, but I was like, you're the only person I slept with before this guy. So I'm just doing my backtracking of, is there any way, have you ever got tested, blah, blah. And he's like, I have gotten tested recently. He's like, I'm 99% sure I don't have it. Like, I'll get tested again, blah, blah, blah. But he was super like, it's not a big deal. You're okay. That's like, we learned about that. Yeah. So I was kind of lucky that I had like a medical kind of resource of a friend to, you know, be like, hey, da-da. And like, we didn't end on bad terms and stuff. So it just was like, okay, all right, you know. Yeah, but that was really the hardest part for me of like, I mean, even right now, I had a breakup, and the hardest part is like thinking about having that conversation again, even though right before I dated that guy, I finally had hit the point that like, when I would tell people basically like, I wouldn't cry, I was calm, I was very just like, yeah, I have this thing, it's not a big deal, we don't have to do anything you don't want to do, like I had like my spiel down.
Yeah.
I nailed it. I was like, oh, we're good. I finally had people like being okay with it and accepting it. And you're like, oh, so once you have people that like essentially accept you and sleep with you and don't reject you, you're like, oh, okay, like there is hope, right? Like even the breakup, I try to look at that relationship being like, okay, there's people that will accept you for this. You can't worry about that. But
well, that feeling, because you said something that I found interesting, the idea of like, oh, I can't get a boyfriend without it. How could I get it with it?
Yeah.
But that mentality of like, I mean, I don't know your relationship with your parents, but that feeling, I feel like sometimes comes from like, oh, this is the best I'm going to get, even if I know it's a bad situation. Like, that fear of being alone, and then almost like self-fulfilling prophecy of, like, it's not that you don't feel you deserve love. Like, it might not be that extreme, but it's that self-fulfilling prophecy of like, the thing that I want is going to be hard to get. So I'm going to like already assume that I've failed at it.
Yeah. And I have a good relationship with my parents. So it's like,
so where does that come from? Because
well, the disappointment actually mainly became because I'm close with my family, and it's partly the like I disappointed myself, but I also was sitting there being like, oh, my parents would kill me if they knew.
Gotcha.
Even though it's like they wouldn't literally kill you, but it's like you're just sitting there being like they would be disappointed. And it's something that because I'm close with my family, I've often had people be like, say kind of jokingly, but like I can tell they're not joking when they're like, oh yeah, your parents like run your life or something, or like, oh yeah, and I was like, no. Like my parents do not run my life. I'm like, I do run my own life that in a way that I would hope that they would be proud of me. Yeah. Like that's in me. Like I'm not sitting here being like, fuck them, they don't pay my bills, blah blah blah. And I'm like, they could not pay my bills and not technically be in charge, and I could still respect their opinion.
Yeah, totally.
Or like essentially, it's like something is always kind of motivating you. So it's like, yeah, maybe for you it's not to make your parents proud, but a little bit of mine is. Because I'm sitting there being like, I think they're great people and wonderful, and I think they did do a good job. Yeah. And it's something that it's more being like, because I think they're great and wonderful, I'm really mad at myself when I fuck up, because I'm like, you were set up to do well, and then you ate it. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what it is, even like school was like, you know, I was fortunate in high school that like I didn't have to work a job for like money to go be social. Because my parents were very like, look, school is your job. And if you start slipping at school, then we're not going to let you go be social. But it was like, if you keep school up and all your grades up and all this stuff, like my parents actually paid us for grades.
Oh, that's
because
great.
we wanted jobs. Like I was like, well, I want my own money to like decide what I want to do, or like buy a shirt I want, right? And my mom was like, you don't have time for a job. You do sports and you do school, and like, and I remember being 16 and being like, you know, like I have a car now, so like I want to go and like buy shit and do what I want, right? I just like wanted independence. So they made a contract with us.
Oh my gosh.
My brother and I, yeah, but they literally were like, if you get 100 in a class, but not like gym and stuff, they like, there was a lot of conditions. So it was like, but if we got 100 in a class, they were like, we'll give you $100.
Wow.
But 99, all of a sudden it was like 50. So it's like that 1 point fucking matter, you know, but it's like, it's hard to get 100. And I was in like honors classes and stuff like that. But basically it's like, they used that to be like, grades matter. And, but even that's something that's like, I was very fortunate they could do that. They could literally throw me cash, but it's like, you know, there'd always be like a B in there that like would bring me down. Like,
but that's so smart, because it's sort of like, they're recognizing there's something you want, which is to be social, which most high school kids do. But instead of being strict and saying no, they're like, she's obviously going to be motivated by the things she wants. Yeah. So how can we make this work with what we want, and which will ultimately be good for her? Exactly.
Right. And that's also so probably indirectly why ultimately in my life I'm often motivated by money, but that's not the point.
Well, did you tell your parents?
I told them.
You were thinking that you'd disappoint them. So how did
I told them a couple weeks before the podcast, which was I kept trying to like tell them when I would be around them, but it would always be like my sister was around, or it's something like same thing of like, it's very hard to do that face to face, because I was like, I needed to mentally be in a place like I was okay with it, because it was like, it was also this not pressure, but it's something that's like, I know that they already care and worry about me enough that all I felt like was like, oh my God, you're gonna drop this on them, like, because it partly would be like a weight off my shoulders to like essentially have like my mom worrying about it more, like, you know what I mean? It's almost like when you tell someone something,
like, I feel so much better. I've told you my secret.
Uplifted. But it's kind of selfish in a way, right? So it was something that I was like, no, this is, you know, something you have to deal with. You have to deal with it. This is not for them to deal with. This is you. It's your, because so many people were sitting there being like friends I eventually told were like, you don't have to tell your parents, right? Which is true, but it also kind of was eating at me to be like keeping something from them, or also like, I was going to like these therapy things that actually like cost a lot of money. Like that group I went to wasn't cheap. that I actually started my own group like last year.
Oh, nice.
Just because I was like, I can't be paying this much money and so many other people can't and whatever. Anyway, but it was just like, yeah, I was under a lot of stress and doing a lot of stuff and like I made it work and I ended up being okay. But yeah, there's something to like, I knew when I told them that their first reaction would be like, are you okay? Like, we love you, blah, blah, blah. Because it's like, that's what good parents do. But it's more the like, yeah, I knew that would be their reaction, but it's something that like you're sitting there being like, but I don't know what the pillow talk is between the two of them, basically about me.
Like there's almost a fear if they'll see you differently.
Yeah, well, I mean, they definitely probably do. You know, I can't really affect that. Like,
I feel like parents see you as so like it's so deep.
They always see you
how
as a
parents
kid.
see their children that it can't be ruined by one. Like there's so much the threshold for seeing someone differently. Yeah. Obviously, it's different for everybody, but we often put that on ourselves. I feel like, and it's. But you were saying something about like the idea of when you tell someone something, you're like, you feel relieved, like you're putting it on them. I also think the positive flip side of that is I do like when people tell me secrets that not like salacious or gossipy, but something like, oh, I want to let you know I
opening
have
up
herpes or something on a date. I could see like for me, that's something very intimate. If I like that person, if I don't like that person, I just don't like that person.
You might just feel uncomfortable.
They could say anything. They could say they made $400,000 last year and I'd be like, you're disgusting. Like it wouldn't matter, but if I like them, they could literally, they could say anything. And I'd be like, wow, you're opening up. You're being vulnerable. I want to build this relationship.
Yeah.
So I could also see it going, not in a, like, this is necessarily a good thing, but I just mean I could see it like when you do form a connection, it being like so much stronger.
True.
I don't know if you found
it
that
goes
like
one
when
way
you
or the
talk
other.
to people.
I think it depends what the news is.
True.
Because it's like, there's this hypothetical, right? Of like, not hypothetical, but there's an example with what we're talking about of like, if you cheated on somebody and say it's this minuscule cheating, right? Maybe you made out with someone, whatever, you're in a relationship. And the person does not know.
Cheating, no.
Right? So I don't know. I'm just saying, say big scale, small scale.
Sure.
The person does not know.
Okay.
Basically, you cheated and it just made you be like, how could I ever do that to a person? Like, I clearly love this person. This is who I want to be with. That person means nothing to me that I cheated with. It's this dilemma of like, do you tell your partner? And part of telling your partner you cheated is that lifting it off your chest because it's eating at you.
Yes.
You feel guilty. And it's something that's like, okay, you have to deal with your own guilt. Of like, if you're just going to go, now you're just putting it on this person. Now you're like hurting this person. So it's like, there's kind of a debate of like, if you're going to cheat one time, never happens again, blah, blah. Especially like, say it's a year later and you're going to frickin' tell them.
Yeah, but
it's like it only makes sense if you're
another set of things because if you've waited a year, then they are going to be like, why the fuck didn't you tell me earlier? And then you're like,
yes and no,
I think, oh man, it's so tough because I think it so depends on the personality because I am on the extreme end of like, I really don't like lying and
I want to know
so much like I'd so much rather hear it even if it's bad. Doesn't mean I'll do the thing you want me to, but I think you can never control someone. But I also know people who don't want to know. So I think it's a personality thing. Because I know people who are like, if you love me and you really do and you're willing to make it work and you can guarantee I will never find out and be hurt, don't tell me. But I'm more like, I need the truth. And I'll feel it too. That's the problem. I'm intuitively, like when people are lying, I just, something's off and I'm like.
Yeah, well, a lot of times you can tell when someone's lying to you or keeping something from you. So it's like.
But sometimes I lie to myself. Like I've done that where I've been like, this person's clearly not saying what they mean, but I'll just. Keep living in it until it all falls apart.
Yeah, I always would want to. It's like I'm the type that like if I was in a relationship, my two things would be like, one, just don't lie to me. I'd rather you tell me a very harsh truth, no matter what it is, as opposed to lying and I find out.
Well, because the truth is always there. I think the thing is we're not mad at, like, I would still be mad at my partner for cheating. So, but I'm mad that you cheated, and you not telling me doesn't change that you cheated. So what I'm mad about is the thing, not whether you're telling me or not, I think, if that makes sense. So if they tell me a truth that's like, if they're like, you're bad at comedy, like I might get mad, but like I'm mad that I'm bad at, it was a bad example, but I'm mad at the truth, not mad at you for telling me. Yeah,
I had the guy I was just seeing said something to me if he was like, you're really tough. I was like, what? He was like, you like, because we would have something of like, we didn't call it honesty hour, but it almost was like that. Of like,
I love that.
There were a couple times like you were having a conversation about something, and then one of us would kind of hit the point of like, listen, I don't know how to say this directly without it being mean or hurting your feelings, but like, I'm going to try to phrase it as much of like, this is what I need. This is what I want. Blah blah blah. I don't like this
improv show.
Yeah, right. So it's something where you're just like, hey, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, you try to make it as direct as possible. So I did that with him once, and he was very like, got it. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay. And then it was like, done. And it was over. And so then he did that with me once. And it's something that's like, his was kind of like a PDA related thing. Okay. He very much didn't like PDA. So he said something along the lines of like something I did that he was like, that really bothered me. And I was like, I had no idea. It was something like we were in the privacy of his home, and I like kissed his shoulder or something, and his brother was like over, and I don't know, but it was like something, I don't know. But I was like, I had no awareness.
Because you have different lives, yeah.
So it's the same thing of like, I'd rather know than you not lying. It's also the second part for me is I'm like, a lot of times if something's wrong, I will not know. If you don't tell me, you can't be mad that nothing's changing. So, but like with that, it was like, it kind of hurt because I was like, well, that is me showing affection to you and I like you. But then it's like, you can't think of that reaction. Right. You have to more sit there and go, okay, you are uncomfortable if I do X, Y, Z, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable. So it's like,
that is a very healthy and mature way to look at it. Because I think I'm like thinking how I would react, and I feel like I would be a little butthurt. But then I'd on paper be like, I recognize your honesty.
Yeah,
like, man,
but that's what couples therapy is.
Yeah,
is you are being completely honest with the therapist when your partner's not in the room, and you're fully saying what you want to say and what you mean. And then your partner's in the room, they basically are like, tell them what you told me.
Yeah,
and they're gonna call you out if you don't. So they're like, they're your accountability partner. And it's basically couples therapy a lot of times is like a lot of nasty shit kind of has to get said. And then it's like, okay, how do we fix it? Because you're there to fix it. You're not there to hurt the other person as much as it might hurt in the process.
It's like training wheels for relationship. Every relationship should have an assistant who's just there.
Yeah, an unbiased assistant that keeps score. No, I'm kidding.
We're kind of getting close to the end, but I did want to ask you a question. So kind of like, because you said you were scared of STDs before you found out you had herpes. How has your view about, like, before you got herpes, did you have certain like notions in your mind of like, if I ever met someone who told me this, like this is how I would feel?
Oh, 100%.
And your fear around STDs, like how has that sort of shifted since you've been more open about it?
Well, okay. So having the fear of STDs has indirectly made me also understand when I get rejected, because before I had herpes, right? If I was about to just hook up with some dude, and he told me just to hook up, right? And he was like, hey, blah, blah, I have this thing. I know I wouldn't sleep with him right then and there. I would kind of be like, whoa, back up, right? Like I'd probably have some follow-up questions, but most likely I'm like, if I'm sitting there being like, I was probably just going to fuck this dude once, I would sit there and go, that's not worth the risk of me getting herpes. I don't care if the risk is 1%. I like, which is typically what it is. It's like, no. I know personally I would sit there and go, no. That's why I was asking those questions. It was like, yeah. But if it was someone I was dating and interested in, I would like to think, I don't know because I never had it happen, but I would like to think like if you like somebody and you care for them and they say something like that, you're more curious and have questions, and it would be like, I would probably look into it. I would probably talk to my doctor and be like, this XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But most likely, unless I saw it going into some type of relationship or the potential for one, I probably would say no and walk away. So it's at least helped me understand a lot of times when like you tell somebody and they don't accept it. And they're like, oh, I don't want to, or, you know, they'll be like, oh, we could like mess around, but I don't want to have sex, whatever it is. It makes me be like, I get it. Because you're sitting there being like, that was me beforehand, right? So you're like, well, there's not much I can do. In terms of the fear of STD, I mean, I guess it's like the fear's gone. But
part of the question too is also for listeners who, because I think it's very common what you're talking about, but not
so
everyone
common,
is so open about it. So I think it's helpful to hear, because I think there's people who have stigma, but there's also people who, you know, have herpes and don't talk about it, and they don't have comedy as a medium and podcasts. So I think it's helpful to hear sort of like, it's okay to have that fear, I think, and then also to then just parse through it and be like, yeah, this is what it actually is like, and it's not scary. And not this thing that's like looming over. I mean, it's gonna change, but it's not in the way that I think that fear weighs you. Right?
It doesn't hurt your health at all. That's the most important thing. Is you are completely healthy.
It might get you on Corden though. So.
Yeah, no, you might have some good luck after. Yeah, so it's like it doesn't hurt your health at all, which is always number one in life. Yeah. Like chlamydia, as much as it's like you take a pill and it's gone. Well, if you don't know you have chlamydia and then you have it a long time, it actually can really damage your reproductive system or lead to cervical cancer. So it's like that is way more of a risk and HPV than herpes. Yeah. So a lot of times it's like I kind of tell myself that a little bit of like, hey, you know, your thing really didn't affect your life. It has affected your sex life a little bit, and that's kind of it. So it's like, of all the things in the world that can happen to you, and you look at like how fortunate and lucky you are with whatever it is, it's like it's a small thing on a big scale of things. And then another thing I try to look at, and this is something I think that's more like women oriented, but is what it is. It kind of is also a deterrent for people that aren't really seeing you to see you. It kind of is almost a way that you somewhat define the relationship of like, when you tell someone that, it's like, hey, listen, I have this thing. And like I said, most people won't stick around if they're not really into you. Yeah. So it's like, it sucks and it hurts, but it's something that's like, you have to kind of just believe the like, you know, there's someone that's going to be into you and accept it for what it is. So
yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, because it makes people show their true colors sooner, and that's not someone who you'd want to find out 3 months later that they're a fuckboy anyways. Yeah,
basically, right. Like, it's like I'm way less likely to end up in like the shitty things that I had before herpes. And it's partly like, it weirdly is almost making me have, not like a standard, but it's like, but it's basically making me be like, you kind of can only sleep. If you're telling everybody, it's like you kind of can only sleep with people that actually care about you and are into you, which is not the worst thing in the world. But it takes longer. So
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you shared that. I had a quick game. I don't know if we have. Do you have to run or anything?
No, I'm good. Whatever you want to do.
It'll just be like a minute. I like to end on like a game just for fun.
Sure.
So I wrote this game based on, because I know your podcast about dating, but also that you're an athlete, so it's sort of a sports oriented game. It's called These Athletes Might Be High Achieving, but will hang on to superstitions to believe in. And that's a stretch. But
oh my God. Athletes are so superstitious. I love this already.
So it's all about athlete superstitions. It's multiple choice, so it's okay if you don't know these people. I think you'll know most of them, but I'm just going to read.
You'll be surprised, actually. I probably don't.
Okay. Well,
so it's superstitions they do, and I have to match the athlete?
Yeah. It's also, so, if you guys don't know, I'm sure most of you guys know, but a lot of athletes have superstitions, much like the theater. Honestly, I don't know why Zac Efron got so much shit for wanting to, ball changed when he was balling. It's all the same. Look,
that's
basically theater and sports, the same. A lot of superstitions involved. But in this game, I'm going to read a superstition from a famed athlete. I'll tell you who it is. I'll give you a multiple choice. You just have to guess which one's correct.
Oh, damn. Okay.
The first one is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wore what during every game? A, mismatched socks for good luck. B, lucky college basketball shorts under his Bulls uniform. Or C, a temporary tramp stamp tattoo in the shape of a butterfly.
The shorts are the shorts.
Yes. Did you know that?
I actually did know that one. When you said it, I was like, oh, I've heard that myth. Yeah.
He wore his North Carolina Tar Heels practice shorts under his uniform. And at one point even to change the hem because like it changed length.
Dude.
And he had to cover it up.
You know what's so crazy about that?
Yeah.
He played 1 year of college. It's crazy to be like, you played 1 year and you held on to those shorts.
Yeah. Must have been a good year. Got him where he was.
You know what I mean? Oh. That's so funny.
So you're doing great. Okay, next question. Jaguars player John Henderson would ask the assistant trainer to do what to him before every game? A, pour ice water on him. B, slap him hard across the face. Or C, read the New York Times marriage announcements to him.
Oh, damn. I don't know which one this is, but I weirdly hope it's the marriage announcement, but knowing football, I feel like it's A or B because it sounds like it would be something to get your like adrenaline jacked up. And I'm gonna go with the slap.
You're correct.
Yeah.
It's B.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not New York Times. That was
the ice was like you gotta dry off.
Fun, but wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be so funny. It would make sense if just the trainer did that and then he had the game of his life and then you literally. That's how so much shit happens.
Yeah, it's just like I gotta repeat this forever.
Yeah, I had like definitely in college and high school I had like game day sports bra and spandex and then I would do that because we'd be winning, and even like how I did my hair, like straight in a pony, right? But then it was like if we had a game that we lost, I would change something.
Whoa.
I'd be like, no longer game day sports bra or something like that.
I'm gonna start doing that for comedy.
I know a lot of people have done that. They're like, I bombed in this shirt one time. I'm not wearing it again.
I do change my I do wear colors for stage because a fortune teller told me to.
Hell yeah.
Because it's like, this isn't hurting anyone and it's fine.
That's some LA shit.
And there's colors that I don't wear. Yeah.
Fortune teller colors.
Hey man, if it's not broken, I'm not gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. Bruce Gardner of the NHL will dip his hockey stick in what before every game? A, the locker room toilet. B, a pile of dirty laundry. Or C, the dip from Roger Rabbit's Toontown.
Say the question one more time. I missed it.
So Bruce Gardner would dip his hockey stick in what before every game?
Ooh.
So the locker room toilet, a pile of dirty laundry, or the dip from Roger Rabbit's Toontown.
I would really hope it's the laundry. But I feel like it's probably the toilet water, which is so gross.
It's the locker room toilet.
Oh, my God.
Yep. Just a little dip. Just a little dip in that.
So
that
funny.
poop water, you know.
Oh my God.
Okay, you're doing great.
Thanks. I just know the athlete mentality. I'm like,
perfect streak. Okay.
Dirty laundry seemed too easy. What's that
You had
doing?
to throw a woman in here. Not a lot of articles like to write about female athletes, but they're out there.
Yeah,
okay,
man.
Guys, PSA. Write more articles about female athletes. Madison Koshin, Final 5 Olympic gymnast, has a specific order to how she does what before every meet. A, how she washes her face. B, how she puts in her hair clips. Or C, how she listens to the Joe Rogan Experience.
I feel like if it's order, it would be more likely to be the hair clips.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
You were just saying your ponytail. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Well,
thing.
for sure. Even like I know people, man, it would be like I put my left shoe on before the right shoe.
Yeah, she like lays them out and always puts them in the same way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, final one. You're undefeated right now. Jason Giambi of the New York Yankees would wear what to get out of a slump? A, a gold thong. B, a garter belt. Or C, a Darth Vader mask.
Ooh. Oh, man. He would wear this not during the game? Just... I want to... You know what? I'm going to guess thong just because I'm like, that's some wild shit.
You're
that weirdly
correct.
might make you jump. Like,
you're correct. And he did wear it during the game, but I realized that would give away that...
Oh, shit. Yeah, because the Darth Vader, I was like, well, that's... I could see that being like, you got something up your butt now.
Yeah.
You got to move.
He told his teammates, and some of them took it on as well. So,
I love how he's like, it's gold one.
It has to be gold. Yeah.
Like he's like, no, don't get some plain black, whatever.
Yeah. No, this is some fancy
That's
shit.
so funny.
Hustler shit. Wow, you won the game.
Shit.
Undefeated.
Oh my God.
Your prize is you can tell the listeners where to find you.
Hell yeah. You can find me at, I'm at Sperica on everything, which is SPERICAA. But also if you search my name, I don't know if it's in the title, but Erica with a C, SPERA. And my podcast is Shooters Gotta Shoot.
Check it out. And you can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod and follow me at Larissa T on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.